Welcome to the podcast. I'm Jonathan.
I'm Owen.
I'm Eli.
And I'm Evan.
This is awesome. Really excited to be here. This is our first episode. The whole purpose of this is that I wanted to hang out with my sons and my wife from time to time. She initially declined the invite, but she said she'll be a guest every now and then. But I also feel like the world is rapidly evolving. And so we tend to do like the fastest form of communication all the time, but sometimes you benefit from a conversation, even though it's a little harder than some of the other ways that are available. So we just wanted to capture some conversations that we have around the house, hoping to be helpful. So that's it. We're just going to talk about things from a multi-generational perspective. We'll have guests from time to time, but really it's just intended to be helpful. So if you find this helpful, keep listening, share with a friend. And if you don't, come back and try another one. All right, we're going to start each episode with a random question of the day using a random question generator. So Eli, what is the random question of the day?
What is your earliest memory?
I told you got to show the camera so people don't think we make this up. What is your earliest memory? All right. Anyone want to go first?
I'll take a stab at it. The earliest one I can remember right now is a plane ride to Disney World when I was like 4 years old. And I remember watching Mickey Mouse on the plane. I don't really remember the trip that much, but I remember the plane ride for some reason.
That's fantastic. That's really good stuff. Glad we
I don't even know.
planned that out.
Yeah.
My earliest memory was probably at our old house learning to ride a bike for the first time. When I
remember that. We got video.
Yeah.
That was always mom's thing.
My earliest memory was probably playing soccer in Tiny Tots soccer league, and I picked up the ball with my hands and cried when they told me not to do it.
I remember, not to be too embarrassing, but you also cried the first time you scored a goal.
Big crier.
Nah.
Yeah. My youngest memory was from when I was a little kid, and I just remember being in a bed, and I had this fire truck book, and for some reason something startled me. I woke up and the fire truck book fell off the bed.
Interesting.
That's my earliest memory.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. So today's topic, we got a main topic today, and today we want to talk about what does it mean to live out the practice of being reflective in your life. So I'm a big reflection guy. I like to spend a lot of time living in that self-awareness, evaluation of what happens in my life, but I realize that not everybody lives there or sees the value in that. So let's start with Owen. Owen, what is something that you think of about the practice of reflection in your life?
So I definitely need to do more reflection. Don't do a ton of it, but basically when I do reflect, it's just over things that have happened to me or that I've done that typically I reflect on things that happen negatively. Like if it was a bad experience, then I'll reflect on it. I don't usually take much time to reflect on positive experiences, which is definitely something I need to work on, but yeah.
Yeah, why do you think that is? Why do you think you focus on the negative?
Well, I think it's just easier to look back and see where things went wrong than it is to be appreciative of things when they go right. As when something goes wrong, you want something different. But when something goes right, you're just like, hopefully it just keeps continuing as it was. And reflection typically is used to improve on mistakes, not when things go well.
It's interesting. I will tell you that as an adult, when you get into the corporate world, it's mostly the opposite.
Interesting.
Yeah, a lot of companies spend a lot of time thinking about, hey, what went well, and how do we keep doing what went well? And as soon as something goes wrong, they like push it under the rug. Well, we're never going to talk about that again.
Yeah.
So it's almost the opposite of what you're talking about there. So that's interesting. All right, Eli, what do you think, man?
I think I actually do a pretty good job of reflection. I like to think a lot when I'm in my car. I don't listen to a lot of music when I'm by myself in my car, so I spend a lot of that time just reflecting and thinking about, just a lot of stuff that's happened. I think I'm with Owen that I tend to do a lot more reflection on things that went wrong and not things that I've done well. And yeah.
Yeah. All right. What about Evan?
I do not do enough reflection. I do it a little bit, but I definitely need to do more. But for me, it's reflection is like where I just set out a time of day where I just think of what's happened and what's led me to the places I'm in, the positions I'm in. Usually it's late at night because I have a time limit on my phone, so I don't have much I can do. So I just sit there and think about where I'm at and how I got there.
Are you implying that your parents are mean and have rules and boundaries?
No.
Okay. It felt a little bit like that might have been what you were saying. So I just wanted to clarify. So I think that's really interesting that all three of you mention the word time when thinking about reflection and how it's like I don't spend enough time or I have trouble finding time or I have to create time. I think that's pretty cool. Do you find that time is a hard thing to come by these days for you guys?
I would say for me, I felt like I had less time when I was in high school than I do at college, just because I live on campus and I don't have a job currently on campus. It's just basically class and homework, and then outside of that, it's free time for me to do whatever I want to do. So currently, not really struggling with time, but definitely something I've struggled with having enough of in the past.
I feel like it's fairly easy to make time for stuff if you want to make time for things, but if it's not really something you necessarily want to do, it's very easy to find other things to fill your time with and act like you don't have time to do those things. But I think it's not actually too hard to find time if you actually put effort into it.
And Evan, I won't ask you because you've already said that your mean parents shut off your phone. So you got all the time in the world.
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of an interesting concept, right? Because a lot of the research that I do talks about how technology is really depleting people's. One of you said it, belief that there's enough time. It's like, oh, I'm so busy. There's no time. I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. I think one of you said you spend like minutes. I don't think anybody said they're spending like hours being reflective. Eli, maybe you do a lot of driving, so maybe you do more than everybody else.
Maybe.
But are there any other than time? If you were to think of what else do you need to be reflective? What would you say?
Definitely a willingness to change what you're doing. I mean,
Yeah.
otherwise reflection would be pointless because Like if you're reflecting and you notice an issue, but you're not willing to change, then I feel like you'd probably stress about it more. Yeah.
I think you're actually insane, right? Isn't that the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing and expecting different results. So
Yeah. It is.
it is. I learned that in school, and I still remember it. All right, so I like that. So you got to have time. You got to have a willingness to change. What's something else? You're going to create a list of things that are important to be reflective.
You don't need this to be reflective, but to be successful with it. Maybe like a plan of action for how you're going to reflect and what you're reflecting on.
Yeah, that's solid. So time, willingness to change, plan of action. Did I tell you to say all these things?
No, you did not.
All right. I just think they're really good answers. I don't want people to think like, oh, he just tells them what to say and then they just say it.
No.
No, that's cool. So what questions, do you have any questions for me about kind of as I've been an adult and reflection in my journey to become more reflective?
What on your path of being reflective have you learned is like a great strategy for while you're reflecting?
So I definitely think that carving out a time is really important, because it is really easy to just get distracted. Because I'm like you guys, I like to try to fix things. And so I spend a lot more time reflecting on, all right, what about my life do I want to get better at or change? And it's very easy to decide not to do that. Just like you guys have been saying, it's very easy to say, hey, you know what? Instead of reflecting, I'm going to go see how many candies I can crush. Is that a thing? Candy Crush, right?
Not really
I
anymore.
don't think it's a thing anymore. Might still be around, but not for most people.
My teachers play it.
Oh, well, thank you for putting me in that category. What about, all right, wordling? Is that the thing where you like get the word?
Oh, that's more of an older people thing.
Last
That
year, a
was
couple
about
years
last
ago.
year, yeah.
All right. So what do you got? What would your guys' equivalent of those things be that would distract you from being reflective?
Like
Video games.
Instagram Reels.
Yes. TikTok, Instagram.
Yeah, YouTube.
Yeah. Wasting your time on those. Yep.
Yeah, that can be rough. Like I know this is kind of big part of it has been time and willingness to change. Now we're talking about distraction. So what about those things that makes it easy to just stick with them instead of pulling yourself out?
I think with like TikToks and Instagram Reels, they're just so short that you can get so many of them in without having. It feels like you're not wasting a ton of time on there because of how much change of topics there are just when you're scrolling each one. But yeah, that's probably why people stick on there as much as they do.
Yeah.
Time ends up adding up though.
I think because like when something goes wrong, you don't want to actually think about it, and you just want to like push out of your mind. And so all those are like a good way to do it, and they're fun to do. So instead of having to think about what went wrong and like what made it go wrong, you can just fill your mind with pointless videos.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Owen, are you studying the algorithm in college? Like, is that in one of your classes?
Not yet, but I'm sure there's somewhere on campus they're doing that.
No, I just, you nailed it. The shortness, the randomness. Randomness actually draws you in because you don't know the element of surprise.
Don't know what's coming next. Yeah.
Is something that draws you in, which is why they don't put them categorically together. But anyway, that's not the point of this one. The more episodes of this you listen to or watch on our YouTube channel, you'll quickly learn that I'm a nerd, and but that's okay. My kids like me. All right, what else? What else do you want to talk about in terms of being reflective? Anything?
Is there a certain amount of time that you should be doing a reflection for, or is it just whenever you feel like you've gotten to the point where you feel like you succeeded?
I don't know. I wouldn't say time. Like I don't have like a certain time, but I do look at like triggers. So if I experience something and I'm like, man, I really don't like the way that went, I'll take a note, and then the next time I have a second, I'll be like, why did it happen that way?
Mm-hmm.
And then that's it. So like those kind of triggers, or when something goes really, really good, I'll be like, man, that was awesome. I wonder how I can make that happen more often. So I'm more of a trigger guy than a time.
Okay.
But I'm also, yeah, I think that's a big thing for me. This is the trigger. Like, what? Boom, loved it. Do it again. How do I make that happen? Or boom, hate it. How do I make sure that never happens again?
Mm-hmm.
You guys have probably noticed with your mom and I, it's one of our big differences is that I trigger and then reflect and then come back. And your mom likes to do it all at the same time. Like something will happen and she's like instantly reflecting and wants to talk about how she's instantly reflecting.
Yeah.
And your mom's a really healthy person. So that apparently works for her. Stepping back and being triggered and waiting and then coming back and figuring it out works for me. So I think the important thing, well, I guess what we're discovering or wanting to share here is figure out what works for you and do that. Don't feel pressured to do it a specific way.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
All right. That's good. You guys feel like we've talked about this topic enough?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Upon reflection, we've covered this topic pretty good. All right. So thanks for listening. So we're going to come back at this every couple of weeks for a while and try this out. So Eli's a big fan of Westerville or something. I don't know what that was. He's a goofball. So what we'll do is now I got to start over. 3, 2, 1. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to record episodes every couple of weeks, put them out into the world. Is he doing that on purpose?
I think he's signaling that was a dub.
Oh, is that the dub sign? When I was your age, that did not mean dub. It meant something totally different. And so we didn't. Eli just flashed a W with his fingers. It meant something totally different. So we're going to go with the dub. See? Took me a minute. I reflected. I'm like, oh, just because something used to mean one thing doesn't mean it still means the same thing. Mm-hmm. I need to reflect and evolve. I like what you did there. You kind of tied it all together. So if you're not on the YouTube channel, like I said, Eli just threw up the W. And I thought, oh my gosh, we shouldn't do that because when I was a kid, that meant something. And now I realize with these kids these days, something totally different. So back on track. So we're going to record these every couple of weeks, come back. Next topic will be about reflecting. We're going to stick with reflection for a little bit. We're going to talk about, did I say travel sports was next or college decisions? Do you guys remember? Or which one do you want to?
College decisions.
No, it's decisions. It's sports.
It's sports.
All right. So next episode, we're going to talk about, we have been a very active sports family. And we're going to reflect on what does that really mean? What did that mean for all of us now that we've got a kid in college, a kid who's about to go to college, a kid who's pondering what does that college mean? We're just going to talk about travel sports and our journey and reflect on what that, I don't know, whatever we come up with. So join us next week. We're also on YouTube. All of our content will be available at www.archimpacts.com. I probably don't need to say the www. Now everybody knows that, but check out archimpacts.com. Go to the podcast section, and there'll be links to each of the episodes and the YouTube videos. All right. I want to thank my sons for being on this journey with me, and I want to thank the people for listening, and we will catch everybody next time.